What's up guys, Solo Renekton only here with the best 10 top laners for patch 6.5. I split the list into the best 5 tanks and the best 5 carry top laners because it's really hard to compare the two completely different roles. The top lane meta is very polarized right now and revolves around super tanks with lots of CC and engage power and carry top laners with massive late game scaling and split pushing potential. Bruisers fell off a bit because they do not excel in either role, forcing them to gain an advantage in lane and snowball the mid game to provide a similar power level as the tanks and the carry tops late game. Let's start with the best 5 tanks in top lane. The number 5 spot goes to Akali. Yes, that Akali. The tank Akali has seen a resurgence recently, but the concept is very old, although new items are a little bit better and synergize better with the tank build. Tank Akali's core is Sunfire, Spirit Visage, and Titanic Hydra, giving her tons of tank stats and allowing her to abuse her high base damages and many gap closing abilities. Maxing E first on Akali gives about a 250 damage AoE ability every second. Your playstyle changes on tank Akali. Your goal is to sit on people and spam E. Your ult is used to gap close for more E spamming. Maxing W second increases Akali's stickiness, and rounding the build out with Rylai's and Gunblade increases the damage and anti-carrying potential. Akali's split pushing is great because in a long lane situation, no one can escape Akali. She has too many ways of gap closing, and her pushing power with E and Sunfire is insane. Akali can get their lane even against the hardest opponents like Pantheon and Quinn, and then just kill them after first buy with level 6 and 3 charges. Akali has great lane matchups against any melee. Just constantly apply your Q, and if the enemy walks up to trade, you proc your mark and Grasp the Undying, and it can't be outtraded. Your goal on Akali in the mid and late game is to anti-carry by diving the back line and snowballing teamfights with resets. Okay, riding dirty into the number 4 spot is Ramus. Ramus has had a high win rate in top for a while now. Ramus is great against melees and specifically crushes Fiora in lane. Also, the increase in AD carries being played in other roles and the bad mage itemization has created an AD heavy meta where Ramus' kit really shines. Ramus can farm out lane against anyone. Even if forced back, Powerball lets him get back to lane very quickly without missing too many creeps. Ramus provides a massive amount of CC, making his lane an easy target for your jungler to gank. Mid-game, Ramus looks to make plays by roaming with Powerball and ganking mid and bot lanes. Picking becomes incredibly easy with Deep Vision and Ramus' amazing gap closing ability. Late game teleport flanks with home guards are the way to go, and pretty hard to mess up mechanically. Even if Ramus goes in too early, he has plenty of defensive tools to stall out and wait for his team to follow up. The number 3 spot goes to the Rock. Malphite is just that, a rock. He's incredibly stable in the top lane, and even when losing, Malphite's utility is always there. One quality ultimate can change the course of the game. Whether you're down 100 CS or not, it doesn't really matter. Nearly everybody is running teleport in top lane, so kill pressure across the board is down, allowing for an even safer lane phase for Malphite. Malphite excels against melee physical damage dealers, as it allows him to stack armor which synergizes really well with his kit. Mid and late game, group up with your team and look for good ultimate opportunities. One of Malphite's best features is how straightforward his ultimate is. It's very easy for your team to all be on the same page and just follow up your engage. The number 2 tank spot goes to the deep sea menace Nautilus. Nautilus has anything you could ever want from a utility tank. Multiple single target CCs and AoE slow on a tiny cooldown lets Nautilus pump out the disruption, all while gaining a 20% max health shield that increases his damage output and is an auto attack reset. Nautilus's engage ability and range from which he can engage is unrivaled. Nautilus does great in lane against melees and even performs well against ranged champions by using his E to help farm. As with all the other tanks, Nautilus is really easy to gank for because he provides endless lockdown. Nautilus's early damage is nothing to be laughed at. He has high base damages and low CD on his E, which lets him scrap even with the best of early game champions. Mid and late game, Nautilus leads the way with his engage and pick potential. Once in teamfight, Nautilus can zone the back line with his E and ult while rotating auto attacks to spread his passive around, letting his team kite and focus fire CC targets. The number 1 tank spot goes to Poppy. Poppy's rework has made her into a monster tank engage machine. Poppy's rework feels tailor-made for the tank engage meta, with every part of her kit synergizing so well. Early game, Poppy's passive allows her to bully from range, while the shield lets her walk up and take a bad trade and still come out ahead. After Poppy picks up Bomby Cinder, she becomes an immovable object in the top lane. Her Q dealing % max health lets her bully tanks, and her passive pokes out all the squishies from range. Mid and late game, Poppy leads the charge with her W movement speed and E gap closer to engage. Poppy creates so much disruption in teamfights She has an AoE ground slow, an ult knock up or knock back, and her heroic charge can knock people into walls, stunning them, making them easy targets to focus fire down. Poppy can also dive back lines and anti-carry if she gets a good flank or if the enemy carry overextends. Poppy holds her own late game against the carry tops, and at the worst, she can just wave clear under tower. Now, onto the top 5 carry top laners. The number 5 spot goes to ya boy Gangplank. Riot tried to kill him multiple times with nerfs, even succeeding once with lore, but you can't hold down this late game monster. Even after nerf, Gangplank can still free farm most lanes and power up to his massive late game, where his barrels AoE crit for over 1000 damage. Gangplank's got that Rise feel, where he can die like 5 times in lane, get to 30 minute and still carry. Gangplank's recent changes buffed his barrel recharge time, putting it down to 6-second recharge with 40% CDR from 8.4. Although Gangplank only can store 3 barrels now instead of 5, the decrease in recharge time means after level 16, in a siege situation where Gangplank is throwing out his barrels, it only takes 42 seconds for the new recharge time to provide more barrels than the old extra storage. Gangplank's biggest issue is he's very easy to gank and dive early game, so your goal is just to survive and scale. After first buy, grab Sheen and start bullying your opponent by poking them with your Q and the Sheen damage and forcing them from lane. This will allow GP to continue to farm for free and stack up to his massive late game state. Gangplank can split versus the tanks, but struggles late game against a lot of the other top lane carries. But it's okay, because at this point, Gangplank's teamfight is absolutely insane. Just group in siege and look to poke down the enemy with triple barrel combos, or bait Baron and use the bushes and fog of war to hide your barrels and nuke the enemy as they funnel in. Coming in at the number 4 slot for the top lane carries is Graves. With the recent changes to Warlords, Graves has seen a lot of success with a lifesteal tank build. Warlords, the resistances from Quick Draw, lifesteal from Death Stance, and the shields from Maw and Steric's Gauge all combine to make Graves deceptively tanky. Graves does really well against most melee matchups with his range advantage and provides plenty of damage during ganks, working best with junglers who provide the CC. Graves is also an amazing team fighter with this build. He can get right up in the enemy's face while lifesteal tanking his way to victory. The only drawbacks to this lifesteal tank build is CC, but with items like Maw, Steric's, and Mercs, Graves can survive the CC and burst and uses E and R to escape, while getting a burst of health back from the Death Stance passive to survive and continue teamfighting. The number 3 top lane carry is Quinn. Quinn is another range champion in a heavy melee top meta that stomps early game with a range advantage. Quinn is one of the most difficult champions to engage on 1v1 in top lane, because you often need 2 ways of gap closing just to trade it all. Anytime you run in, Quinn will vault away and blind you and poke you down as you run away from her. Quinn can constantly pressure her opponent under tower and harass on every CS the enemy goes for. Quinn's W allows her to play even more aggressively by granting extra vision and preventing ganks when she's overextended. Quinn really excels in the mid game, where she can start abusing her ultimate mobility for picks and ganks around the map. Just being in the fog of war in Quinn creates so much pressure and can cause enemy lanes to play safe and miss CS that they don't really have to. Quinn's team fighting is poor if you just group up and walk at the enemy. Quinn should always be looking for flanks with her ultimate and look for the opening where the enemy's backline is underdefended. Quinn's mobility allows her to constantly control both side waves, allowing her team the pressure and tempo advantage all game. Man dropping into the number 2 spot is Pantheon. This early game monster is so oppressive in lane with his early game poke and huge all-in potential, often leading to 20 to 30 CS leads by the 10-minute mark because the enemy is so afraid to go for CS. Pantheon is also one of the best lanes to gank for with his high damage and CC gap closer. Pantheon also has amazing scaling with attack damage. His E has a 360 bonus AD ratio when it fully lands on the enemy, which is pretty automatic when you stun first. Map awareness and solo queue is non-existent, so after level 6, Pantheon just backs and ganks bot or mid, and it nearly always leads to some sort of advantage. Whether it's a kill, just chunking the enemy and forcing them away, and letting your laners get extra CS, a tower, or a dragon. Pantheon's goal should always be to snowball the mid game as much as possible, to make closing out the game that much easier. This is easy because Pantheon has all the tools in his kit to influence the map in a big way. Late game, Pantheon can still split and look to ult into teamfights, allowing for 1-4 or 1-3-1 splits. And the number 1 spot for the carry top laners goes to Fiora. Even after all the nerfs, nothing can stand up to a late game Fiora. She is the master duelist and it shows. Her split pushing power is unrivaled. Get your 2 items on Fiora and no one can 1v1 you anymore. Late game Fiora can just ult and dive any target under tower, killing even the biggest tanks quickly while healing the whole time. For a champion with such an amazing late game, you would think her early game must be awful, right? Nope. Farming out lane and scaling on Fiora is really easy, as long as you don't run into the odd Quinn, Pantheon, or Ramus. Even those matchups don't mean it's all over Fiora. Just accept that you're going to be down 20 CS at 10 minutes, and play not to die. Get your 2-item spike, and become a late game monster, and kill everybody. Fiora's all-in potential after level 6 is crazy. If the enemy ever pushes out, Fiora can ult and all-in using the extra movement speed and her lunge to run down the enemy. Fiora's split pushing ability is unrivaled, and until that changes or the power of split pushing in general falls out of favor, she will continue to hold this top spot. Hope you guys enjoyed this tier list, and I look forward to reading all your comments on why I am wrong. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!